that 10th grade year was so special. I mean, playing on the football team with Shep as a quarterback, and probably wasn't the best quarterback, but had a lot of fun, catching balls from him, playing with guys that I grew up idolizing. J.R. Eldridge, Paul, Patrick Pesnell, Shep, all his friends that I grew up with, playing, in the front yard, playing football with, and then getting to play basketball with, like I said, John Newman and Nicky Bradford and, Tim Brazel, some of those guys. It was just a really special year that sophomore year. And
when we played together, it was fun, and it was natural. We never, because we'd been doing it our whole lives in the backyard, and
Right.
that was the first guy. I do remember one pass in particular, and we were playing at Kickapoo, Springfield Kickapoo.
Oh yeah.
And it was a play action, and it was designed. Steadman was a slot, and it was kind of a postish route to get to the middle of the field. And all I remember is I did the play action, and I didn't know where he was. I couldn't see him. I didn't know. I just threw the ball where I knew he was supposed to be, and I threw it as hard as I could and hit him in stride. But I just knew he's going to be
Right.
where he's supposed to be.
He just could do anything. I mean, he could pick up, whether it was a baseball, a basketball, tennis racket. I mean, he could do whatever he wanted to do. That's just the kind of athlete that he is. And he'd do it in such a nonchalant manner.
I get mad because he'd always beat me in something,
Yeah.
and Newman and I, we would be outside playing home run derby and wiffle ball, in elementary school growing up, and we'd try to get Steadman, come on dude, come play ball with us. He'd be upstairs laying in bed watching CMT. And so finally, we'd drag him out of bed. He'd come down. He'd play 2 games. He'd beat us both, and then he'd leave. And we'd get so mad at that just because that's how he just beat you. And growing up, yeah, Nintendo, Tecmo Bowl, he'd beat me. Oh, it'd be a bloodbath, man.
Steadman, as long as I've known him, he's not an emotional guy. He just, if you didn't know him, you would think he was lazy and didn't put out effort. And that is absolutely not the case. He just knew how to practice. He knew how to play, and was just so much fun to watch.
Relaxation before games.
Very relaxed.
Yeah.
No one ever accused Steadmo of not being relaxed.
Yeah.
learning from him, the little things. I can remember, not hustling off the field one day at one of my little league games, and the next day Dad waking me up and making me just run in the yard, run to and from the yard to the driveway, just practicing hustling, just those little things. And that kind of stick with you, and obviously, wanted to do everything I could to represent him the right way. Obviously was around football and sports my whole life, but Dad played an integral part in that.
Yep, everything he did was supernatural. I mean, his movements, everything was supernatural. And whatever it was, baseball, football, basketball, track, I'll never forget growing up, we would travel around with Dad, like go recruit and go to games or whatever, and Steadman and I would go find the game that the sandlot game going on in the end zone or whatever, and he and I were always the best combo because I just throw the ball to him and no one could tackle him.
I was never the biggest kid, obviously, and so if you didn't want to get tackled, you had to find a way to make those guys miss. And that's where I think a lot of times the freedom you have just playing outside by yourself and not really caring, what happens. Nobody's watching you other than your friends. And so I think you kind of figure out a way to, stick your foot in the ground and make somebody miss. And, obviously it's kind of a fight or flight, mentality there. And when you're when you're my size, you had to fly away from them. You know, you couldn't sit there and fight with them. So
Like maybe 150 soaking wet.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
soaking wet. Yeah, with
Yeah.
some weights in his pants probably. So he was and he was always little. He was always the smallest, but no one could ever catch him. You know.
You know, from my perspective, this is something I really never dreamed would happen. Very appreciative for, you know, all the people in Fayetteville that have played an impact on my life. You know, at the top are obviously my family, but, you know, I've got about 7 or 8 friends that I grew up with from junior high to college that are, you know, my best friends in the world. And, you know, them and their families, you know, growing up and playing with them and getting chauffeured to and from basketball and baseball games, and just very appreciative of everybody back home. And, you know, like I said, this is something I never dreamed would happen, but obviously very appreciative for everybody back in Fayetteville.